Eric is pulling the anchor and we're headed to Reid Inlet. We just sat at Sandy North Cove last time, so this time we want to make sure that we see something else before we go sit there. Because once we get there, if it's as active as it was last time, we're not going to want to leave. We're feeling pretty lucky today. We learned yesterday that the reason why we got a permit at the last minute is several boats didn't like the weather, and so they left. This morning we wake up and look at this. It's awesome out. Yesterday wasn't bad, but today's beautiful. There's our buddy. There's a couple of kayakers out. Kayaking right about where the whales are feeding. Look at Distant. She's still cuddling with her little toy. They say to be really careful about the whales right now because the whales are so interested in their feeding that they aren't paying attention to the boats. They say that cutting this corner here will get you a ticket. It happens frequently. It's gonna be a long day, isn't it?
Yep. Well, we've got the current going with this, so should be not quite as long.
What do we mean by long day?
It's 45 miles, but it's not that long.
So that's about 6 hours? 6.5?
We'll see how fast we go. We're only doing 7 knots right now, so.
But you timed it to go with the current.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the point that they tell you not to cut off. We can only go 13 knots. We figured we'd have no problem whatsoever. But the captain got us going with a current. We're up to 12 knots. We're going to have to be careful.
Yeah, I'm going to get a speeding ticket.
That would be amazing.
Speeding ticket on the Nordhavn? Yeah, okay.
Well, maybe it will be less than 6 hours.
Might be a little quicker, yeah.
That'd be nice. We departed about 10:15 a.m. We traveled a distance of 44 nautical miles, which took us about 7.2 hours, and we arrived at Reid Glacier at 5 p.m. As you can tell, Glacier Bay is very large. It's 3,226,800 acres. Somebody stole my pillows when I got up. Check out this water. Well, that's a bummer. We've dropped down to 7.8.
We got through the narrow part.
I convinced Eric to take a nap, and I'm on watch. Last thing he said to me was, make sure you don't hit any rocks. Now he's got me all paranoid because another boat that was here this summer sunk. And I'm also realizing that I'm not just looking for rocks and logs. Now I have to watch for whales. And whales just don't, float and stay in one position. They come and go. So I'm actually paying a lot more attention at watch than I normally do. But it's a beautiful day. We're pretty lucky to be here. We are just passing Blue Mouse Cove. Here's the entrance to the cove. We are coming into Reid Inlet.
The Reid Glacier is about 3/4 mile wide and 150 feet high and over 10 miles long. The glacier is now fully grounded. The center of the glacier continues to slowly recede at about 30 to 50 feet per year, while the remainder of the margin has been receding at about 30 feet per year or less, while progressively thinning.
Look at how silty this water is. It's really pretty green. You can't see anything through it. We are through. Hopefully those aren't the kayakers from Bartlett Cove and they beat us here. What a brave girl. We are in Reid Inlet. It was a long day. When you have a slow boat, sometimes it takes a long time to get places. But it's really quite pretty. And this is a safe anchorage. Okay. We are up on the flybridge, just kind of relaxing, having a drink before dinner. Diston is enjoying her blanket. It was pretty cold coming out, but it's not cold up here at all.
Quite nice now. Nice and warm.
Yeah. We were actually kind of pleasantly surprised. There's another anchorage that's closer to the glacier, but the one we are in is more protected and more advised. That is the entrance over there. And then we are tucked away in this little area. We woke up this morning and we are this close to the beach. The seagulls have been having lots of fun, making lots of noise. It is a wonderful, gorgeous day. We are in Reid Inlet and we've got the dinghy out and we are going to go down John Hopkins Glacier. We're going to go see John Hopkins Glacier.
If we can.
If we can. We have to be really careful of the harbor seals. It's a beautiful day though. Check it out. People gave up their permits because the weather wasn't good. This is where I would want to live if I was an animal or bird or fish. You're supposed to come in at a lower tide so that you can see this opening and see the bars. We came in at high tide. It was a little disconcerting, but this is what it looks like at low tide. How's the depth through the opening?
No less than like 35 feet in this boat.
Oh, that's nice.
30 feet.
Can't even see the Havaseas back there. We're headed to the John Hopkins Glacier. We need to be really careful of the harbor seals. at least a quarter mile away. They lay out on the icebergs, so we're just going to stay away from the icebergs because we've already seen at least one, if not two. We didn't interrupt them. They weren't unhappy, but we just want to be super careful. We've slowed down a little because there's all kinds of icebergs. Whoop, there's one right there. And there. And they're clear enough that you can't see them real easy. We hit an iceberg. The sound of the dinghy is a little different now. Hoping we didn't put a hole in it. But we have a bilge pump. Check it out. I'm gonna have to dress her warmer. Well, we really haven't seen any seals. That's good, and it's bad. The seals we have seen have been in the water, so maybe they're all eating. What do you think?
Spectacular.
It is, isn't it? Aren't you glad we came down here?
Yeah. Pictures won't do it justice.
It's something you actually have to see. Although it's a sunny day, we started off with sunglasses and sweatshirts. It didn't take long to put on the down coat. And I wouldn't have minded having the down blanket as well. I'm sure Diskin would appreciate that too. Coast Guard recommends that you stay a quarter of a mile away from the glacier. If it calves, then it creates a big wave. It can capsize your boat. I don't think we're gonna get any closer than this. Eric's pulling out lunch.
Johns Hopkins Glacier is about 1 mile wide and 225 to 300 feet high at the terminus. The glacier flowed down the main valley at about 3,000 feet per year, or about 8 feet per day, according to observations made in the late 1970s. Today, Johns Hopkins Glacier flow rate is approximately 5 to 12 feet per day. I thought this was interesting. Johns Hopkins is characterized by submarine calving. Calving below the water surface caused by the breaking off of ice from an ice foot that extends from the basal part of the glacier. These basal bergs rise suddenly and unexpectedly, emerging sometimes explosively without warning at the water surface.
Did he come up to... That was cool. And here comes the Wilderness Explorer. It's 480 feet deep in the water right here. That's a Nordhavn behind that cruise ship. This is like crazy. You can't even see Havaseas behind that spit. This is the Reid Glacier, and it doesn't even drop into the water anymore. It's been kind of a relaxing day. We took the skiff up to Johns
Hopkins Glacier.
John Hopkins Glacier. Had a little lunch.
Heard the glacier thunder and boom a little bit. Didn't see any calving though.
Came back, relaxed most of the afternoon. Still relaxing, having a little margarita.
Yeah, margarita. But we got skipped back up again, cleaned up the cockpit. Did a little bit of work.
Yeah, the ice just got cleaned up too. So we are gonna have steak for dinner, and we have a new air fryer that people keep convincing us to get the air fryer, so we got an air fryer.
Seems like a pretty nice thing.
And we will see what onion rings are like in it. Like onion rings that came from, onions from scratch. So we'll give it a shot. Well, I wasn't planning on posting this, but we have steaks on the grill.
Steaks on the grill. We're in Reid Inlet. A little windy tonight, but still been a sunny, nice day.
The cockpit's like really nice.
Yeah, considering you don't have the canvas up. Well, generally speaking, although it's nice to have the canvas up because it's much drier back here when the canvas is up.
But it's summer. We have the new air fryer going, and we are trying fresh onion rings. So we will see how that turns out for us. If this doesn't work, from now on we'll do frozen onion rings. I'm hoping it works because our freezer gets full, and onions are pretty easy to preserve. So the steak is done. The onion rings are done. They aren't very pretty. They taste pretty good though, huh?
Yeah.
I think they're healthier. And we have another Nordhavn. This morning we are headed up to the Marjorie Glacier. I wanted to see it. We were this far along. So I said, yes, I really, really want to see it. So we are seeing it. There's icebergs up there that we have to be careful of. We'll take a look at it. I have a feeling that the John Hopkins one was the most impressive, but we'll find out what happens when we get up here.
Here is our route from the Reid Glacier to the Marjorie Glacier.
Eric has been dodging these icebergs on the way. There's a sailboat anchored right there with all those icebergs around them. Eric and I were talking, and there's no way he would sleep if we were anchored there. He'd be worried about the icebergs. We have a tour boat that's already beat us here. We got up early. The Marjorie Glacier. This one is impressive in a whole different manner than the John Hopkins. We'll see what happens when we come up around the mountain here. So we're still only on the tip of the glacier. See if we can get in there. Right, Captain?
Yep.
I've never seen that.
The Marjorie Glacier is about 0.85 miles wide with an ice face that is about 200 feet high above waterline. The glacier is about 21 miles long and begins in the snowfields of the Fairweather Range, where elevations exceed 9,000 feet. It is interesting to note how close to Canada we are at this point. We are located at the X, and here is the Canadian border. We are now leaving the Marjorie Glacier, and we are headed over to North Sandy Cove. Here's an aerial of North Sandy Cove. As you can see, there's no glaciers here. July 22nd of last year, we anchored in North Sandy Cove and saw so many whales, sea lions, heard wolves. It was incredible. So we're hoping to see the same this year. Unfortunately, this year, 1 week earlier, the whales were not in the cove feeding. However, we did get to experience a bear on the beach.
Does she smell them?
Smashing these barnacles and he's looking at me. That's gotta be a pretty nigger eel.
We can go.
Pretty interesting.
I know, but I don't want to bug them.
We didn't want to disturb the bear too much, so we headed back to the boat and were pleasantly surprised when the Nordhavn 64 Grand Quito came into the cove. They invited us over to the boat and we had a very pleasant cocktail hour. The boating community is a very special community, and the Nordhavn community is unique and welcoming.
Safe travels, Victor Diego.
Well, thank you.
Safe travels.
Same to you.
We love our time on the water.
Havaseas you next time.